Hello and welcome to Joyful, the podcast that will help you live a more joyful life. I'm your host, Chloe Markham, and it's my mission to help you find more joy every single day. This podcast is a deep dive into ways to reduce your stress, your overwhelm, anxiety, and that voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, whilst also diving into the methods, philosophies, and protocols that help us live more connected, grounded, and ultimately happier lives. This is about living life on purpose. Without any further ado, let's dive into today's episode. First of all, thanks for tuning in. I want us to take a moment, and this is something I did in season 1 of this podcast, and it's not something I want to leave behind. And this is this kind of checking in. How are you doing? How are you doing? What's going on? Honestly, hand on heart. Sit for a second, take a breath. And tune in. And I mean this in terms of your posture, in terms of your breath, in terms of emotions. Are you feeling tightness in your body, stuckness? Are your hands really tight, clenched? Are you resisting gravity a bit? It's all right. None of this is bad, it's just noticing. It's all good. So I've been doing a lot of nervous system work, and oh my God, I love it so much. I love it. I've just actually come out of basically a midday yoga nidra. You should probably do one too, just saying. If you don't have time, do a longer one. Really, really nice. It's really nice, and I'm noticing how this stuff affects, my creativity and my productivity, my sleep, how my digestion, everything. And it's pretty profound. So, yeah, I want you to feel, and allow. And I think it's this kind of putting ourselves first that, even just for a minute, right? It's really important. So I'm feeling pretty chill right now. I'm feeling pretty relaxed. And do you know what? I'm excited. I'm excited to introduce this new format to you. Because I think it's, hey, as far as I'm concerned, baby, it's necessary. So, season 1, if you listened, very proud of it. It was never supposed to be a podcast, really. It was just a thing that came out of my conversations with members. And this is still that. So, members, the Yoga Revolution members, if you're listening to this, always ask me questions, because at the end of these sessions, I am here to answer the questions. I'm here to dive into the yoga practice, to help us refine it, and feel better about it and more excited about it and get more from it. Like always, right? But yeah, if you know me a little, you might recognize that I am not the best at planning. It's not my forte, right? So even yoga teaching, right? I go into a yoga class pretty much winging it. I have a vague idea of what I'm doing, maybe a bit more if I'm teaching on demand, if I'm, filming a video, but for the most part, it's just like, okay, what's feeling good now? Let's do that. And I think maybe I'm tapping into something bigger than me. Maybe it's the music. The music is obviously a huge deal. And so what I was trying to do by forcing this, plan in the deep dive, so season 1's content, we had a theme every month, and I was diving into different aspects of that theme every week, which is a great idea. But it's not the kind of paintbrush that I paint with. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't come naturally to me. I'm definitely more spontaneous, to my detriment, definitely, but Anyway, that's not the way I work. And so, look, that's one reason why this format is changing, because of the way I am. Welcome to my mind. But you know what? This is the yoga revolution, baby. And it's been born, this revolution, from, I suppose, boring classes that don't give me any magic. And this is what I suppose my introduction to yoga was like. I would go to an in-person class and I'd get something from it, because yoga gives you stuff, of course. But there was something missing. It's just, and at the beginning, I suppose I couldn't put a finger on it, but there was music playing and you couldn't really hear it, or it was repeated, or it was just meh. You know what I mean? Or the teacher had this kind of forced, relaxed voice, or you could feel there wasn't much personality going on, or something. And this isn't a diss to any other yoga teacher at all. Plenty of teachers get by and do wonderfully well. But for me, going into those kind of classes and environments, it was just very stifling, and I just felt like I didn't really belong, or I didn't get enough from it, you know, in terms of what I wanted to get from it. And so that's what made me want to do it my way, right? If I wanted something different, then other people might too. Turns out they do. And, you know, that's been refined over the years, and music is a big deal, and we don't take it too seriously. And, you know, really what I'm doing is removing the barriers to entry, because yoga is a powerful tool. But this kind of rigidity within yoga, and what I was, I suppose, demonstrating in season 1 of this podcast, I do actually think is unnecessary, because it isn't about yoga. Okay, hear me out. So, anywhere you go, if you listen to other yoga podcasts, if you're on social media and following yoga studios or teachers, whatever, you know, even in classes, right? I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but it is very much about the refining of the yoga practice and the meaning behind it, or a structure within it. You know what I mean? It's about yoga. Nothing wrong with that. And if that's your jam, that's awesome. And obviously it is for me too, right? I'm a yoga teacher. I've obviously been to teacher training, and I have really refined my craft and you know, dived into a lot of the technique and the mechanics of the yoga practice. And like I said, I am here for the Yoga Revolution members to dive into that about your practice. How can we make it better? How can we make it so you get more from it, so you reach your goals quicker? Right? So absolutely there's a place for that. But more and more I'm realizing that it's not about yoga, and we're sort of missing the point. You know, if your goal in your yoga practice is to nail your handstand, or to bind in a side angle pose, or to, I don't know, do something else, get your heels to the mat in downward dog, or perfect your vinyasa or whatever, right? I feel a little bit like we've missed the point. All of those things are good. They're a good goal to work at, but we need to realise that they're a kind of periphery goal, like they need to be a secondary thing. And actually the conversations that we need to have aren't about yoga at all. Fuck yoga. Who cares about yoga? We shouldn't be caring about yoga as much as we do. And I say that quite lightly. Of course I fucking love yoga. Yoga's my life, right? Yoga's amazing. It's changed my body. It's changed my entire life. And I've seen it do that for countless other people too. I'm saying it flippantly, right? But my point is that it's a tool. That's all yoga is. I don't think, unless you want it to be, and you do you, friend, you do you, but it doesn't have to be a lifestyle unless you want it to be. It's a tool, right? So what is the end goal here? It's to feel better, right? It's to get better physically, more movement capable, right? It's to be better parents, better siblings, better friends, more productive, more creative. The things I was saying earlier about my daily nidra practice. I do that to improve my sleep, right? I don't live my life around my daily nidra practice. And for those of you who are unsure, it is basically just lying down whilst being guided to relax. It's very taxing. But it's about, living a better life, right? Less injury, less pain, more joy, more satisfaction, groundedness, love, capability, calm, sleep, better sleep. Please, Christ, give me better sleep. You know what I'm saying? How important is sleep? Very fucking important. Please, prioritize your sleep, right? And I think, so back to the point, the change in this podcast and the format is, yes, because I can't deal with the strictness, I suppose, the rigidity of having a theme and sticking to it and la la la, like, oh man, it's just, I find it tedious. But also, we don't need it. We don't need it. If you want that stuff, you can find it. Talk to me. We can have a conversation. Even at the end of these podcasts, there's a Q&A available for members. But I think we need to be talking about the bigger picture. So how can we use yoga and mindfulness to live better? How can we, connect with each other and remind ourselves that we're not alone in the things that we're going through, right? Life is fucking hard, man. Life is really hard sometimes. It's really easy others, but how do we help each other navigate the challenges? And what is that like from a kind of yoga perspective, from a meditation perspective, from a nidra perspective? And so if you've been receiving my emails at all, this is kind of the verbal version of my emails, right? I sign up for them, man. I'll put a link in the notes, but my emails really are just, this stuff happened to me. What did I learn from that? Okay, interesting. Here's how yoga can help, or meditation can help, or none of the above, right? Getting outside. So yeah, expect more waffle, I suppose. And I keep using that word, and I suppose it's quite detrimental, but I don't mean it to be. It's just a conversation between us all, living our lives and wanting to get a little bit more from them, because we're going to die at some point. And so I was speaking in emails yesterday and today about this concept of dying someday. Yay, welcome to the podcast. It's so uplifting. But no, I had this awful... So, I've surfed for quite a while, right? And actually, one of the reasons that I got into yoga in the first place is because I was a terrible surfer. It was like an effort getting into a wetsuit, let alone standing on a board, right? And I was about 18, 17, maybe 16, I don't know, somewhere around there. And started practicing yoga, and anyway, so I've surfed since, and I surf a longboard, and loved it, always loved it. Brilliant, just to get in the sea, I mean, let alone anything else. Who cares about the skill? Again, it's not about the surfing, eh? it's the getting outside, being in the sea. If you're a surfer, you know what I'm talking about. It's a pretty magical thing. And yeah, one day I was at this local break, and surfed there a whole bunch of times, so many times, alone, you know. And I was alone that day. There was quite a few other surfers out, but I was alone and I got pulled out, basically. There was a few rips going on and I got pulled out and really, really started to panic. It's never happened to me before, and I didn't know what to do. I've been pulled out by rips, but, you know, there seemed to be multiple going on, so no matter what direction I paddled, because, you know, the guidance is always, don't paddle against the rip. It's like a treadmill, hey? So I paddled along the shore. Wasn't working. There was 2 rips, like, pulling me out simultaneously. It didn't matter which way I was paddling, and I was really panicking. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I got in, and sheepishly went back to my van and just had a panic attack, I think, probably, and drove home, and my board has never been out of its board bag since. So I've never surfed since that day. I've actually used a paddleboard at the same beach, but yeah, I've never surfed since, and I really, really miss it. And since then, you know, I've been through a fairly traumatic breakup and house move, and whole change in my life has happened. And I'm starting to, you know, over the past kind of 6 months, just simmer back down again and kind of find my feet again and find groundedness again, which has been obviously incredible. But I'm here like, surfing, do you remember? So I'm thinking of actually getting a new board and surfing again. And I've been in touch with an old friend who I used to surf with a lot. So that's really exciting, just kind of delving back into this hobby that I used to love. My point is that, first of all, you need to get back on the horse, and I should have done this a long time ago, because that happened maybe 5 years ago for me. And it's just like, why have I waited so long? This fear. When we live from a place of fear, man, it's not good. And, you know, the love and the magic that I get from surfing is way bigger than the fear I have of getting washed out. I mean, that's not going to happen again, is it? The likelihood is it's not going to happen. I'm pretty competent, you know. It can happen to anybody, and touch wood, it doesn't happen to me again, but, like, I'm just living from that fear. How many times did I have an excellent session? 99.9% of the time. When nothing bad happened. To be fair, I did get hit in the nose with my board once. It was fucking awful. I honestly thought, that's it. Like, I don't know. What happens when you break your nose? I never broke my nose again, touch wood, Christ. Anyway, what I'm saying is, living from this place of fear, but the biggest thing for me is like, okay, I'm going to buy a new board. It's been a while since I've surfed, years since I've surfed, right? And I'm going to pull up to these breaks that I used to go to with a brand new board, and I'm going to be shit. I'm going to be bad at it, you know? And there's a resistance there, right? I play the violin too, and I suck. It's the hardest instrument to play, I swear to God. And I am terrible at it. And you know what? That puts me off playing it, because I am such a perfectionist. But I think it's not just me. I know that you too have this fear of doing something, you know, because of what people are going to think of you when you inevitably suck at it, or you get it wrong, or you look stupid. You know what I mean? And it's super depressing, because we're going to get there someday, to this place where we are minutes from death. That's a thing that is going to happen to us. Welcome to the most joyful podcast you've ever listened to. And like, what are we doing? Worrying about what people think we look like in a wetsuit, or, you know, like in a swimsuit on the beach in the summertime. Do people really worry that much about your cellulite? No. Nuh-uh. You know what I'm talking about? Oh my God, yet we live our lives like this. And you know what? Social media can fuck off, because it is just a massive proponent of this worry what other people think of you thing. You know what I mean? And actually, I've started to post much less on social media, because it's some sort of weird black hole of despair, man. Like, I get maybe every few days I get random Russian, I think they're Russian, like tags in Russian stories, Shein, you know, that terrible fast fashion brand, and that kind of thing, and other things like that all the time. Stories, posts. So I'm at a point where I'm just like, nah, I'm not, no thank you. I'm out. I'm out. I run a business and I know, yes, we should all be social mediaing, but no thank you. I'm out of it. I don't give a crap anymore. So, oh my god, the Wafflecast has landed. So yeah, what I'm saying is, hey, do you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna buy a board, a pretty one. I'm gonna buy a pretty board, and I'm gonna I'm gonna go surfing again, and I'm gonna look daft probably. I'm gonna fall off that board plenty of times because I'm buying a shorter board than I've ever purchased in my life. I'm going from a 9'2", I think, to a 7'2". Sounds miniature. 7'2" sounds so small. Longboarding vibes, man, they're so wonderful. Anyway, I'm gonna do it, and I think you need to do it too. Whatever it is that you are scared of doing, you know, like, I don't know, I know people who aren't scared of this, but I feel really like bleh about going out to eat on my own, going to a restaurant or the cinema on my own, you know what I mean? Like, but if there's a movie you want to see or a restaurant you want to eat at, go do it. How many times have you, I don't know, noticed, or next step, really harshly judged someone in a restaurant on their own? How many times? Like, probably no times, right? Probably no times. And yet we're so paranoid about being that person. It's so interesting for me, post-lockdown, you know, I obviously barely went out for months and months, as we all did. My partner at the time was working, so it didn't feel that unusual, but yeah, I didn't leave the house. I had to sell my car and all of it, and there's definitely residual anxiety in me, and I know I'm not alone in saying that. Residual kind of going outside and into crowds anxiety. People, no thank you. It's really interesting, but I think we need to suck it up and live our lives, right? What brings you joy? What brings you joy? What makes you feel alive and sparkly and magic and excited? And what's stopping you from doing that? I know for me it's anxiety, it's worry, it's fear of being judged, it's fear of failure. So yeah, this is just a plea. And this little mini waffle is just a plea for us all to go and do the things. Live our lives. And I'm going to send you a photo of my board when I get it. And I know I said there was no format. I'm just looking right now because no format to this podcast anymore. I am just going to be talking about things that make us feel alive. The yoga practice, our mentality, the philosophy behind living this kind of yogic, joyful, light-hearted, high-fiving life, right? So I hope you're in for the ride. Let me know what you think. But I have something I want to start as a format piece. So I went to a play last night. I'm so cultured. No, really, like, I started going to plays, and go to plays because this is an industry that needs your support, and they're fucking brilliant. I mean, most of them. I'm sure there are terrible ones too, but the one I went to see last night with my good friend Lenny was brilliant. It was called Every Brilliant Thing. It was at 41 Monkgate Theatre in York. It was really good. And there's a point to this, I promise. So basically it was a play about depression and suicide, super uplifting, just like this podcast. But the point is that it's called Every Brilliant Thing, and this 7-year-old with his mother who was suicidal, I suppose out of a need to support this situation. How can you support? You feel helpless, right? I've dealt with suicide, it's horrible. How can you support with that? he started to write a list of everything worth living for. So, go see the play if you can. I don't know how, but go and find it. It's brilliant. But I want to end each episode, if I can, let's see how long I keep this format piece up, with something wonderful that's worth living for. And I'm not talking like puppies, the ocean, like obviously the smell of fresh cut grass. Yes, of course these things are amazing, but I mean something maybe slightly obscure, something that perhaps we don't see or don't expect. And for me, so just to put this in context, Lenny and I, who I went to the theatre with last night, who I saw this play with, we went for food afterwards, and we were sat opposite each other, and the table to my left was full of these guys, middle-aged men, clearly on some sort of work trip or like, can I say golf trip? Just stereotyping here, it's fine. And one of them was eating ribs, I think. Something like that, right? On the bone. And there seemed to be some sort of lull in the sounds in this restaurant. And in Lainey and I's conversation, she just paused for a second in what she was saying. And the sound that came from this guy with the ribs, unbelievable. Unbelievable. It was just the kind of, I don't know, you could call it like a Disney sound effect of him sucking meat off a bone in this momentary lull in sound in this restaurant. And let me tell you, I nearly wet myself laughing. Lainey and I basically collapsed. It was really funny. So something worth living for right now in my head is laughing so hard you think you're gonna die. You think you're gonna pass out. You can't control your bladder. I pulled a muscle in my chest laughing so hard. The stuff that releases in your brain, my God. Yes, more of that, please. So, I don't know, put yourself in a situation with a mate who makes you laugh like that. Makes life worth living. Alright. I hope you've enjoyed this first episode in the complete wafflery that is the new Yoga Revolution podcast. Members, talk to me. Where's your yoga practice at? How can I support? Let me know. I am here for it. And I will see you next time. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for listening, my friend. I hope you're feeling sparkly and inspired to live a more joyful life. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a rating. These things are invaluable to me, and share it with people who need it. This is about inspiring more people to be more connected and lead happier and more joyful lives. Join my inner circle for more inspiration. Learn more at the website theyogarevolution.co.uk and chloemarkham.co.uk. I'll see you in the next episode.